20 years of civil war, devastation in Afghanistan. Basically, the government only functioned in the cities. Rural areas were more or less controlled by the Taliban. So now you have a situation, Taliban have taken over. Now, I would imagine there is a lot of, when you come into power after 20 years, in our case, we came into power after 22 years, you have a lot of problem dealing with people who have given a lot of sacrifices, or different sacrifices for my party, but in their case, with blood. Now, they would want to get placement in the hierarchy of the government. And yet the government is clearly trying to get international acceptability. So it wants an inclusive government. It talks about human rights and not allowing its soil to be used for terrorism by anyone. And I think this is where the world, it's a critical point for Afghanistan. The world must engage with Afghanistan. Because if it pushes it away, within the Taliban movement, I would imagine there would be hardliners. And so it can easily go back to the Taliban of 2000, 20 years ago. And that would be a disaster. Because 20 years of the NATO presence, $2 trillion down the drain, hundreds and thousands of people dead. And if it reverts back to that sort of crisis, chaos there, fertile ground for terrorists like ISIS, which is actually a real worry for all of us, especially for Pakistan. I think that it would be a total waste. I mean, it would be, what has the US got to show after that 20 years? So therefore, a stable Afghanistan government, which can then take on ISIS, and believe me, Taliban are the best bet to get rid of ISIS. That is the only option left. Isolating them, sanctioning them is going to, apart from anything else, apart from the chaos, it is going to be such a huge humanitarian crisis. Half the population is below the poverty line. The UN thinks that by next year, 95% of the population will go below the poverty line. The government only depended, 75% of the government budget was foreign aid. So if they leave them like this, my worry is it could easily revert back to 1989 when the Soviets left and the US left, and 200,000 Afghans died in that chaos. And that's where Taliban emerged, in that chaos. So I think it's a critical time, and the US has to sort of really pull itself together, because people in the United States are in a state of shock. It seems that they were imagining some sort of a democracy or nation building or liberated women, and suddenly they find Taliban back, and I don't think they have sort of found their feet as yet. There's so much anger and shock and surprise, but unless the US takes the lead, we are worried here that chaos in Afghanistan, we are the country which will be affected more after that.